All right, Jastin. A through Z.
R as in river.
R as in river. Well, in honor of R as in river, you good, Heather?
Yeah, the audio was coming out of my computer for a second. And it was weird. It was like Jastin was muted when he answered, and then it came out of my computer, and then it came back to my headset. So
this is crazy. So
our apartment's possessed. I don't know.
Behind the scenes, guys, this is literally take 2. We got like 30 seconds into the last recording because my mixer fucked up. And now like 30 seconds into this recording, Heather's mixer's fucking. This is going to be crazy.
There's a ghost.
Friday the 13th. Yep.
Some kind of a ghost going across our wavelength.
We just need to keep recording until midnight, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be Saturday the 14th, and we'll just be clear.
That makes sense.
Anyway, in honor of R, as in river, we will talk about the rated R movie Craven in the Sony universe of Marvel movies. Sony announces the last one, which is a real odd thing to do before it comes out. That's like canceling a show after season 1 before the pilots aired and then going, why did nobody watch it? That is the weirdest strategy I've ever heard of. It was already tracking to be worse box office wise than Madam Web. And you went, don't even bother. We don't care. What the fuck is this? Sony Pictures once again proving they haven't got the slightest fucking clue of what the fuck they're doing. Just none. Not even an inkling. You literally told most people, just wait till it's on Netflix. Who cares?
Craven went through a lot of delays and stuff too, right?
I thought it was going to be Sony's Blade, but they actually did it. So, yeah, it did. It's been like delayed like 5 times. It's absurd.
Man, I'm so happy. Feels like a prayer's been answered. I mean,
did it finally release?
About this.
Is that your prayer, Jastin? It finally came out?
I mean, nah, son.
I saw a picture today of the rhino, like an actual like still shot of the rhino's face.
Look great.
You remember that rock fuck from Neverending Story? That movie, you remember that movie came out like in the 80s or 90s, like early 90s, late 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that shit looked better.
Wow. Well, that's not a good endorsement. Yikes. All I know is I remember after The Last Dance, Venom, I was on there begging for this to stop. And it looks like it stopped. I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
It's just really surprising because this should have been Sony's year. This is the 3rd movie to come out of theirs this year. Madam Web, Venom 3, and Craven. This was the year of the Sony Spider-Man movie universe. The Spider-Man-less Spider-Man universe. What did they have to compete with? DC released Aquaman, right? That was this year? Wasn't it? Didn't Aquaman 2 come out this year? Or was that last year?
I think it might have been the very, very end of last year.
I think so. It was holiday last year, right?
I think so.
I mean, but either way, Deadpool. Outside of that, everything was them. Yeah, you're right. Aquaman 2 came out in 2023. So it was 3 Sony movies and a Marvel movie. The comic book movie world was their oyster. And they just went, hey guys, who cares? We know you don't. We know we don't. But have any of us said it out loud? And then they did. But in other news, related to a previous news topic, we've started to see some of the Diddy dominoes falling. Jay-Z has officially been added to a lawsuit for raping a 13-year-old.
Oh my God, really? I didn't hear that.
Jay-Z was added as a co-defendant. And on top of that, another lawsuit was filed against P. Diddy by 4 men alleging that he raped them. So,
wow. I wonder what other fun we're in store for.
it's the first one.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just the first one.
Oh, man.
It sure as fuck won't be the last.
Mm-mm. Nope.
It's just going to be one of those things.
Man.
Well, I remember like a couple months ago, I read something where Beyonce and Jay-Z had like sued somebody for claiming that they were involved with anything with it. But it probably was a different thing. But it's just interesting and ironic that now this is coming to light.
Yeah. It's not going to be the last. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not even saying definitively that Jay-Z did anything, because he hasn't been charged by the FBI or anything like that. He's just been added to a lawsuit. This was one that was previously just filed against Diddy, and he was added as a co-defendant. But in general, I'm just saying he won't be the last name added to a lawsuit. He also won't be the last name added to a criminal indictment if he does. I'm just saying Diddy's not going to be the last one with criminal charges because of this. There will be more criminal charges. And Jay-Z won't be the last person added to a lawsuit. There will be more co-defendants. That's just the way it is. I went there. Maybe I shouldn't have. But I did.
I mean, but you're not wrong, so.
I was talking about the song.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a, Diddy. That's just the way it is.
Oh, yeah.
Things will never be the same.
No, they won't. I mean, say what you will about the man. You could almost say he's prophetic, because he called it back then. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy if I ever heard one.
Wow. Can there just not be any more people at it? Can that just be it?
You would hope so, but they were whole parties, Jastin.
I know.
This wasn't,
maybe a lot of people didn't show up that time. Maybe a lot of people missed it. It was just a few of them.
Apparently, that was like Denzel's rule when he would go to a Diddy party. You left before midnight.
And
he told someone else that, and they like followed his lead. Like you go there, you leave before midnight. Because let's just say even all the crazy sex stuff wasn't illegal. I'm sure not all of it was. I'm sure there was some legal sex stuff going too. That's just when it would start. So it's just like, hey, go when it's a regular party. And then you leave. And the sad thing is it probably was regular party. Then it became a crazy sex party. And then I bet it didn't even start as illegal sex. Like when it would get to that part. But you at least had an hour of it just being a normal sex party. And it's probably like that hour 2 or 3 of the sex party when you got into the illegal shit. You know, because you can have legal sex parties. That's fine. I'm not saying that's for everybody. I get why Denzel wouldn't want to be at just a Hollywood sex party. He's Denzel Washington. Can't be at no Hollywood sex parties. I get it. But either way, guess whose name's not getting tracked into the illegal shit? Him. Because he just would leave. He'd be like, all right, it's that time.
Smart man.
Hell yeah. That's why this man's been in the game for how long? And no one said a bad fucking thing like that? Come on. Because, you know, like I'm talking about just like in general, you don't say anything bad because it's like you just go do the normal shit, go to a party. Can't say anything bad. Just go to a party. Just leave before it gets to shit you don't want your name attached to. Don't do things people wouldn't like to hear about you.
You'd think it'd be simple, but we just find out more and more that people make it hard. No matter what.
In some lighthearted news, before we talk about the children's movie or the family movie, I should say. Everybody loves these novelty popcorn buckets that are coming around, right? They're funny, they're cute, they're whatever. It's silly, it's a fun little game. The one that came out last night, the one for Lord of the Rings, the War of Rohirrim, or whatever the fuck that movie's called, the animated Lord of the Rings movie. AMC's popcorn bucket is a fucking Warhammer. It's a fucking plastic Warhammer popcorn bucket. So it's got a fucking handle on it. What the fuck? You can't be having a fucking popcorn bucket in a movie theater. It's got like a fucking handle on it. The fuck is this? It's not a popcorn bucket. That's just a popcorn obstruction.
Yeah, that's weird.
What is this? Because it can hold like a large, like if you look at the picture, it looks like a large popcorn bucket with a 3-foot long handle coming out of it. The fuck is this? People are supposed to be sitting in a fucking theater with these fucking things? What the fuck is this, guys? And it's not even like the funny things of like, oh, the Dune popcorn bucket where everybody's like, it looks like something you could fuck. This is like, and I get that that's questionable, but also genius because it's like people are talking about it. This is just dumb. It's just dumb. It's absurd. When I go see Craven, I'm sure I'm going to see one in the theater because I go to an AMC. I'll report back next week if it is as dumb in person as it just looks on the internet. I'm not going to lie. Even if it's just half as dumb as it looks, real fucking dumb still. Anyway, you guys got anything else before we talk about this family movie?
Not for me.
On that note, let's cue the music that is arguably just as memorable as anything from the movie we're going to talk about.
Somebody will listen to me. Nobody knows anything but you. All right. Are you ready? Yep. Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I am joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we're going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with the newest Disney animated feature film, Moana 2. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around in both audio and video formats. And with all that, we'll start with our official and scholarly Moana expert. Me. I love Moana. I've always loved Moana. I thought Moana was fantastic. One of the few movies that really made me tear up. The scene when the grandmother dies, her little stingray, manta ray spirit helps Moana get past. Oh man, rips me apart every time. Every time. And then I was like, all right, Moana 2, let's watch this. And they went, hey, you know everything you know and love and thought was fantastic about Moana? I'm like, yeah. And they go, what if we did none of that? And I went, oh. And that was my experience with Moana 2. The songs are nothing. There is not a single memorable fucking song in this entire movie. They were chasing Lin-Manuel Miranda this whole fucking movie. And they didn't get close. Not at all. Story behind that. This movie wasn't meant to be a movie. This movie was meant to be a Disney Plus miniseries. That's why I didn't get Lin-Manuel Miranda, because it wasn't budgeted for that, because it wasn't a movie. That's also why, if you've watched this movie, you'll notice, hey, it's kind of weird that it doesn't look better than the first Moana. Because that's kind of a trademark thing when they do these sequels. They look better. I'm not saying this movie looks bad. I'm just saying it looks the exact same. There's no improvements to anything. It's just the same. And sadly, I'm also talking about the story of the movie. It's the exact same. Do you want a villainous character that kind of has a din that has a lot of flashing lights and they sing a song that's slightly funky and out of style with everything else? Don't worry. This movie does that too. With none of the fun. And it's not even a bad character. It's this bat witch character, and it's kind that like that's a cool concept. And then you just went, what if we did kind of a funky song that had no soul whatsoever? And I'd be like, man, that's an interesting choice. Are you sure you want to do that? And they go, oh, no, we did. I'm like, oh, okay. This movie's nothing. This is one of the most insanely forgettable things ever. This movie reminds me of the day when Disney sequels used to go straight to VHS. Because that's what this movie is. This is the same quality of Little Mermaid 2. You know, that one that went straight to VHS. And they had the audacity to go see this in theaters. And then they had the audacity to go, why don't you think it's as good? Did they not watch it? And to top it all off, the salt in the wound that is this movie is that after the emotionally devastating and impactful death and spiritual guidance from the grandmother character of the first movie, they just went, don't worry, guys. She'll just come back whenever the fuck she wants as a ghost. Anytime. Multiple times. Okay. Thank you, movie. Thank you. I'm just in utter awe. That this really is the fucking shit we get. Does Disney just not care at all? And I don't mean that as I know they don't. They're a soulless mega corporation. Of course, they don't care that much. But I'm like, do they just not want money? They haven't been having the best of financial movies lately. They haven't been having massive amounts of box office success. Granted, they do have the #1 movie of the year with Inside Out 2, but it hadn't been the best of years. Do you remember how little money Indiana Jones made? And I get that this movie made money. Don't get me wrong. I know it made money. Because kids, families went and saw it. It came out Thanksgiving weekend. Kids are going to see it. All this, I get that. It's going to make some money. But I mean, I guess kudos to them for going, hey, guys, I know how you hated how much your kids loved watching Moana and listening to the Moana soundtrack and all that stuff. And they came out of the movie singing songs. We know how much you hated that. Don't worry. They'll never sing a song from this movie. They'll never ask to watch Moana 2 again, ever. Did they do this just to help parents? Take your kids to a movie they'll never want to see again. Guaranteed. That's the Disney 2024 promise. It hurt. It really hurt. Jastin, what about you?
Yeah, the interesting thing about this year is that a lot of sequels came out this year. So it's really easy to be able to better understand what separates a good one from a bad one, or an excellent one to like one that's just kind of mid. Like that, we have so many examples of sequels that were good. Alien Romulus was a good sequel. I mean, Inside Out 2, I liked it. Thought it was a good sequel. But I mean, there's been a ton of them though, good and bad. Joker, Folie à Deux, that was a sequel.
Is this the movie it shared its delusion with?
But we had Ghostbusters. What, Frozen Empire? Wasn't that this year?
Yeah, that was this year.
Yep.
We got that Godzilla X Kong X New Empire.
Oh, yep. That was this year. So, yeah. So we got some bad ones. But then, you have some like Furiosa and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, like that are on the higher side. So like, and then in the animated department, you said Inside Out 2, but we've had Despicable Me. We've had quite a few sequels. I didn't see Twisters, but you guys said it was all right, right?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So we've had quite a few this year.
Gladiator
And
2.
so-
Don't forget Gladiator 2.
Oh, yeah. Gladiator. Damn. How many of them? Damn. So
Well,
anyway,
Well, if you really want
Hell-
to get into it, we also had Venom 3. We had
Yep.
Deadpool 3.
mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a lot of Kung Fu Panda 4 came out this year.
Yep.
We get Sonic 3
Which I didn't
later this
see.
year.
But heard it was pretty good. Yeah, Sonic is on its way out. So yeah, there's quite a bit. There's quite a few sequels out. But anyway, we've seen enough of them now to where, you watch all of these and you can really start to separate, okay, a good one, Smile 2, a good one from a bad one. And like, to me, this was a perfect example of just like a not good one. It's so just kind of blah. Like, I didn't hate this movie, but I really didn't like anything about it. And I mean, you already said it. I mean, it was almost as if like this was done by somebody who sat on the other side of the desk of the person who wrote the first Moana, copied off of their paper, copied the script, and then just changed little things here and there and turned it in and said it was a different script. Like, that's what this almost feels like. And I think that's the most egregious thing about it. Like, you're right. None of the songs were memorable and everything like that, but you might have gotten away with that if the story was good, because sometimes it is hard as a sequel, especially a musical sequel, to match or be equal to the songs of the first one. That's very, very difficult to do. A lot of movies, sequel musicals fail at that, but you might have gotten away with that if the story was any good. But when the story is damn near a copy and paste outline of the first movie, down to where I'm watching the movie and I knew what was coming. Like, there was like a specific part before I saw anything, before the movies gave me any clue, I was like, are we going to run into the coconut people? And it happened. I knew it was going to happen. I knew that it was around that time for it, because I was like, well, around this time in the first movie, we ran into them. So I'm sure. So surely that's what's going to happen here. And it happened, like almost on cue. It happened. And it's just like, that was just a part of this that I never really could get past, how similar everything was to the first movie. And so when you do that, it feels really uninspired. It feels lazy. It feels like a cash grab. It doesn't feel like the creative enthusiasm and the ambition that was put in the first one was put into this one, especially when you're doing that. And then I never thought that I would ever compare these two movies, but then I felt like this movie commits the same sin that the Venom Last Dance movie did, where essentially you have a villain in the background doing all this shit, but we never really confront that person or get to see that person or have any kind of confrontation with that person. Instead, it's teased for the next move. It's teased for the next one. Now, granted, we'll likely get a next one of Moana because it's making enough money and everything like that. So, yeah, we'll probably get Moana 3. But still, for this movie, I feel like it commits the same sin. So I complained about it in that movie. I'm going to complain about it in this one.
Is it weird that they tried to act like he was the Thanos of the Moana
Yeah.
universe? Like at the end of the movie, they're just like, oh, but he's on his throne going, oh man. Like, why was that the end credit scene from Avengers? Just with random guy in the crab.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, this movie it's just not amazing in any sort of way. The animation's fine, but we've seen better this year. Like you said, I can't really confirm if it looked better than the first Moana or just the same as the first Moana, but I know for a fact it definitely didn't look well, and it didn't look good enough for me to notice it. I was just like, okay, it looks good. You know, it looks respectable. But wow, the robot looks way better than this. And this is Disney. Like, you're supposed to be like the leaders of this shit, like the leaders of animation. You're supposed to be the front runners when it comes to this kind of stuff. But wow, the robot looked way, way better than this. So
even in the
on
first
the
3
visuals,
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So like even on the visuals, I can't even say, well, the visuals were excellent. I mean, the voice acting is fine. I mean, everybody's back here. Most of the people we're familiar with are back, and they're fine, and they do the job with the script that they are given. But there's just nothing about this script that's interesting. And the few things they do that are, I guess you could say, new to this movie, like instead of Moana and Maui by themselves, there's a crew. And that might have been an idea that could have potentially worked. I didn't hate those characters, and I liked what some of those characters stood for, but we didn't lean into any of those things to flesh them out or anything like that. It's just kind of like snaps, arcs, and solutions with all of those characters. And I really think maybe that's where the gold was. That's where the treasure was. If it was a story about all these people getting along and different people trying to understand each other, and we're going on this journey together, and it's a different dynamic for Moana and Maui, and I think maybe there was something there that if we had leaned into that could have been way different from the first one and given this a completely different feel. But it's glossed over so that we could do the same shit in the main storyline. So it feels like an afterthought when I think that should have been the thought process of this film. And so when you get to the end of this and you know that there's going to be a third one, how could you even be excited for it if you're just afraid? Are they just going to do the same movie again? Are we going to get part one again? But this time it's just going to be more characters and more people. Are we just going to do the same thing?
See, the sad thing is, because this was meant to be a TV show, Moana 3 is actually probably going to be what Moana 2 was supposed to be. This was supposed to be the TV series that bridged between Moana and Moana 2. So that just means Moana 3 is going to be what the original plan was for the sequel after this TV show.
Okay. So maybe that kind of, well, that might give it a chance. So it might increase in quality, but is that saying much when this one was what it was? It's like, it's not going to be that hard to be better than this one. Just don't copy the first one. just do something a little different.
Why is that the number one note for sequels that just never seems to like get through to people? Just don't remake the first one.
Yeah.
That should be the number one rule of a sequel. Don't remake the first one.
Yeah.
because there's only been a handful of times that's actually worked. The best example of that working is probably Star Wars The Force Awakens. It remade the first one. But that's also, there were 5 movies between them, though. You know, there's 5 movies between them, and you at least add a couple of new things, you know, that legitimately can change the universe. You know? And this, what is it? Like, is the introduction of 3 new members of the crew going to change the Moana universe? Really?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So now you're making a good point. And like, you'd think that by now we will have gotten that far with these sequels to where they don't do it so egregiously. Like, at least for some of these sequels, yeah, they copy the first. Sometimes they copy the first one, but you got to look really hard. Like, sometimes you got to do some digging to really find the similarities. You didn't have to do anything. I mean, this was just flat out on the surface. Like, we just straight up giving you the first movie, just a couple of different wrinkles here and there, but that doesn't make it different. It just at times felt like an insult of intelligence. So yeah, it's just hard to really forgive this when I've seen sequels this year that were great sequels like Alien Romulus and Smile 2 that actually expounded on characters and introduced interesting characters and did and brought new dynamics to their part ones to make their part twos stand out. And it sucks this coming from Disney and Moana because this is a really good character. And it's nice to see all these minorities getting work. It's nice to see a minority character be a main character and a different culture. And, you know, there's a lot about Moana to like. But so much so that I just wish she would have gotten better treatment. I feel like the character deserved a better story than this. So yeah, is it terrible? No. Does anything happen in it offensive? No. I mean, it's a passable movie. But just like you said, Sterling, this is a straight to DVD Disney sequel. It's a Return of Jafar. It's a like you said, Little Mermaid 2, or it's the Lion King's Simba's Pride. You know, it's one of those. That's about the quality of it. You know, it's not.
It felt like it's
super
like,
terrible, but it's just it's whatever.
Because that's what Disney used to do. They used to make the same movie, but it was with the original person's kid that had a different hair color.
Yep.
I mean, you can't tell me this movie doesn't feel like that, because that's exactly what it feels like. They just didn't change Moana's haircut. That's it.
Yeah. With like you said, a copy and paste storyline. Oh, Ariel wanted to go to the surface. Well, her child wants to go back to the sea. See, it's different. Come on, guys.
Simba's daughter
it's different.
Falls in love with a lion that's from the bad side. And he's one of Scar's kids. And he judges him. But then it turns out he's okay.
See, guys? Isn't it different? Isn't it different? And this was the same. Well, Moana has to go and get Maui, and they have to solve something.
Did they ever
but
do
in
a
this
Beauty and
one,
the Beast
she's
too?
going with a crew of people to find Maui.
Think
and
about one
solve
of the worst
something.
offenders. Aladdin 2, Return of Jafar. They just went, hey guys, the bad guy's coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just went, hey guys, we really
Hey,
doing
he's back
the same
again.
shit.
You thought they beat him? Well, they didn't. Not quite. He's back. He's back. And so, God, this is just a drastic drop in quality. Like, everywhere you dissect it, the beginning versus the Moana 1, the middle versus Moana 1, the end. Oh my gosh, the end, the third act versus the Moana 1's third act. Jeez. There's just no comparison. So yeah, very disappointing, very just meh when it comes to this movie. And in a year full of sequels, this is like somewhere in the middle to the lower half, I think. It might be the best of the worst sequels this year. That might be the best place to put it, honestly, when I think about 2024 and all the sequels.
You know what's one of the worst things, apparently? They did a sequel to Beauty and the Beast called Beauty and the Beast Enchanted Christmas, where all the people turn back to furniture and Beast is a beast again. That's horrendous. That's so mean to these people. You solved this curse, and then you went, guys, we got to make a sequel Christmas movie. All cursed again. That's so rude.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, Heather, what about you?
Yeah, literally my first and biggest complaint about the movie is the fact that none of the songs are memorable, like you guys were saying. It just I think maybe a half hour, if that, after leaving the theater, I'm just like, what were these songs? And I think what made it worse is the fact that they really were trying hard to replicate the first one with all right, this is our big empowering song. This is our fun Maui song. This is our reprise song or whatever. They really tried to make it the same in that regard because they know how moving the music piece was, or the fun of the music piece was in the first one. But it just, this movie, it's very much what you guys have said about it's more of the same from the first movie. It's just it's the same without the heart behind it. And it's the same problem that I had with Gladiator 2, where it's there's no actual inspiration here. There's no empowering, sentimental anything, even though you're trying to make that be what it is. It's lacking the heart behind it. So yeah, it's just very, it's hard to know how to properly judge how I feel about this movie, because I feel like I was going into a lesser version of the first one, and the first one is so good. But it's interesting that you said this was supposed to be like a mini series, because once you said that, it kind of clicked with me. That actually makes sense for how they set this movie up, the way that the progression of the story is, the progression of how we are introduced to some of these new characters. That actually makes a lot of sense. And I'm bummed out because I think that that's what they should have done with it. They should have just kept that the plan, as far as I'm concerned. And it's also the fact that we are about to be on Moana overload with this live action that's coming out, and we're going to get Moana 3, and it's just so much Moana, and you're taking out the heart of why we love Moana. You know what I mean? With just trying to capture that magic of the first one that you're never going to fully be able to capture that way with a live action or a sequel or a mini series or anything. That's just kind of, part of the territory that comes with having such a great first movie and Disney sequels for the most part. And it's just such a middle of the road movie. And that's honestly its biggest flaw, because you don't care about this movie. You don't sit there going, this is my favorite Disney movie. This is my favorite Disney franchise of movies or anything like that. It's just not going to be up there in any regard with that type of thing. And also the only thing I kind of slightly would disagree with what you said, Jastin, I actually just don't think the supporting characters were very likable. But it's also, again, like what you've said, we didn't get enough time with them. We didn't get enough to be drawn into why we should like these characters or anything. They tried that at moments where they're like, oh yeah, the silly old guy, you got to love him because of this. Or, the very hard thinking, wants to try everything all the time character. And they really want you to have these things that you attach yourself to for these characters. But there's just the setup for these new characters is not really there. And I actually think that while if they had fleshed them out better, they would have been good additions. The way that they were in this movie a little bit took away from the big, the Moana of it all. And that first movie being so I'm out on my own. I'm journeying this by myself. I'm learning about myself. I've got this. I've got it under control. And I'm learning about, the sea and the water and the who I am out here by myself. And then none of that matters really in this movie, because it's just all right, we're going on another adventure. Let me grab everybody I can and just try to rope them around like I'm their parent, because they're all just these misfits that are goofy and don't know what they're doing on a boat that we need to make sure lasts because our journey is a little dangerous. It's just, it feels like a one-off episode of a sitcom or Disney show, where it's oh, we're bringing out friends this time. They're going to mess everything up, comedy ensues. But that's just not really, that doesn't play well in this, for this being the plot of this movie. Or not the plot, but the kind of the groundwork that they're laying for this movie. And, with that, again, if the story had more a more solid through line or a more important or sentimental message behind it, I could get past these characters that we don't care about, and I could get a little bit more past the music not being memorable. But because you don't have anything strong in any regard for this movie, it makes it fall flat a lot. You don't have strong characters. You don't have a strong story. You don't have a strong soundtrack. You don't have visuals that blow your mind more than the first one did. So it is kind of like that Cliff's Notes version of the first one that just kind of goes over hits the same beats, but just lacks the actual depth of the story to it.
And you brought up a good point, Heather. We're getting live action Moana next year. That means 3 straight Moana movies that are the same goddamn story.
I didn't even know about that one. Damn. So I knew about How to Train Your Dragon. So I guess we're just going to start getting a lot of these now too, I guess.
Yeah. The Rock's coming back. The Rock's going to be Maui. They've got a different person cast as Moana.
Which automatically brings it down.
But yeah. That's going to be real crazy when you get 3 straight movies of the same fucking story. Anyway, recommendations and scores?
Yeah.
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
Jastin, go.
Yeah, it'll be quick. I mean, I guess for me, even though this disappointed me, I don't think it's bad enough quality-wise to not recommend it. I don't think I would tell people to avoid this. But if anything, I just recommend it you don't have to be in a hurry to see it. There's no reason to go to the theater and watch this. You can just wait till it's on Disney Plus with everything else.
Which is sad, because that's what it was going to be. It was going to be a
Yeah.
Disney Plus series.
Yeah. And now that when you said all of that, it's supposed to be the series and stuff, I was like, yeah, that's about where it fits. And that's where this fits now. No reason to jump to go see this. Of course, I'm not a person with a family and kids and all that stuff. The kid's begging to go see it and you got a little time. Is it going to hurt to go see it? No. But is it going to matter if you don't see it? No.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you. If you've got a family, it might hurt you to go see this. You got to pay for all those tickets.
That's right. That's
you got
about
to pay for
$100
popcorn
nowadays.
Yeah, you got to pay for all the economic strife.
Maybe more because it's like what, $12 to $15 a ticket?
Yeah. Plus
that's
popcorn,
just the tickets,
candy, drinks, all the shenanigans.
Mm-hmm. And in most places now you can order like food. Like if you're at a Synergy, you can order food. So the kid might want some nachos
or some chicken nuggets,
some chocolate straps.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
When all they could do is just put on Moana. They already bought it. That's already sitting in their DVD collection. Just put that on. And then wait till it's on Disney Plus.
Yep.
I'm just saying, yep. I think there might be some hurt if you've got a family and you're going to go watch this in theaters.
Yeah, it'll hurt your pocketbook. You won't feel like, and there won't be anything about the movie that an adult will enjoy, because most of the time with these movies, it's like, oh, well, the adults will enjoy this aspect of it and the kids will have this aspect of it. But as an adult watching it, even the adult jokes, I guess you could call them, it was just like, okay. Again, carbon copy, a lot of the dynamic and the jokes and the rock and all that stuff, it was just better in the first film. It's just more of that kind of stuff, but it's the same Moana kind of humor, but it's just not as good. So you're not going to chuckle as much. Just not going to feel it as much, if at all. So yeah, but overall it's fine. I guess I'm just in the middle with it. So we'll give it, I don't know, we'll give it 50 coconut people opening the pathway to a giant clam out of 100.
Heather, what about you?
I mean, really the only recommendation I would say is like kind of like if you're needing some background noise for your kids at home, something that's like, it looks familiar that they don't necessarily have to pay attention to, but it'll keep them calm down. Maybe that for this. But otherwise, yeah, it's like you might as well just watch the original and get better songs, get a better story, get something more moving and more meaningful. But it's honestly, again, it's not like this is the worst story, this is the worst whatever. It's just the same story done in a less good way. So, and that's why I feel like I'm really kind of right there with you with it, Jastin. I'm like right in the middle on this. It's just a very okay, mundane, nothing special about it movie. So I'm also going to give it 50 starfishes to take home or to take back to your sister when you arrive back home out of 100.
I want to be with you guys because I think for the most part, you're correct. This is a middle of the road, mid movie. I don't know if we've had such a mid movie since, what was it, Hansel and Gretel? Or Gretel and Hansel, I'm sorry, because they reversed it. When it was just so mid, it was like the definition of a 50. But I think because of how good Moana is and how impacted I was emotionally by Moana, that when you come to me with a sequel, and it is the biggest steaming, hot, soggy, mid thing you could ever give me, it hurts. It's insulting. It's cruel. So my score starts at 50. And loses 10 points for every time the grandmother came back in this movie to shit on the emotional impact that her death had for me in the first one. And this movie gets a 30 for that. It gets a 30. What in the diet store brand version of a Lin-Manuel Miranda song was Give Me a Chee-Hoo out of 100?
It was so rough. It was rough.
I have never heard a more multi-meal bag cereal version of a Lin-Manuel Miranda song in my fucking life. I legitimately go back to when we talked about cereal in that episode, that intro a few episodes back. We were talking about how insulted we were when that motherfucker's sitting there going, it tastes the same. And it didn't. And that's what that song was. That was like a, hey, what if we did a Lin-Manuel Miranda song and then put it in a bag and put it at the bottom of the cereal aisle and just told people it tastes the same? Because it doesn't. And it was bad. It was real bad. CineScore, 43. Spoilers?
Yep.
Yep.
Spoilers.
So if you've ever heard Lin-Manuel Miranda talk about how he did the Maui song, that, you know, You're Welcome, from Moana, he talked about how he went back and watched some old WWE where The Rock would sit down in the ring. He's doing, I think it was essentially the Hollywood Rock character. And he would sit with his acoustic guitar and he would sing these promos, these heel promos at people. So Lin-Manuel Miranda went and watched those. Because what did it allow him to do? It allowed him to write a song that The Rock could perform and sound good. And sound like it belonged. And these people that wrote the songs in this movie took the wrong lesson from that. They went, hey, if we write a Lin-Manuel Miranda-esque song, that's what will make The Rock sound good. Because that's what he did in the first movie. No, that wasn't the secret to making The Rock sound good in a song. It was writing a song for The Rock. Not writing a song for the guy that wrote the song for The Rock. Because The Rock felt a little bit in over his head on that song. Which was kind of sad. Because that song was a little bit in over its head for being a song. Jastin and I, a few years ago, did an episode about Frozen 2. And I don't think anybody will debate on what movie has the better songs between Frozen and Frozen 2. Frozen has better songs. It's hard to touch a Let It Go. It's hard to touch a Wanna Build a Snowman. You know, it's hard to touch those songs. But Into the Unknown is an incredible song.
Yeah. They had one, man. They got one.
They had a grand slam of a song. Is it as good as Let It Go? No, it's not. But is it an amazing song? Yes, it is. What the fuck is this movie? There is not a single song in this movie that is worth a damn, that is worth anything. The best song in this movie is worse than the worst song in Moana. I'm not saying I remember every song from Moana, but there's a few. You know what I mean? There's still a few you remember. This has nothing. They didn't even have the audacity to just redo one of the songs. Just change a couple of words.
Because that would blow their cover of what they were doing.
This movie is nothing song-wise. It's just nothing. And I want to agree with you guys about the cast of the rag, you know, what is it? The
Misfit Crew?
yeah. The band of miscreants, or the ragtag. That's what I was thinking. The ragtag band of crews she got. I hated all of them. I hated all of them. What the fuck was that farmer doing? I know they just wanted grumpy old man, but he legit didn't do anything. Do you need a farmer to just have pots of plants on your ship? Does that really take farming skills to have just pots of vegetables? You need a whole ass farmer to just have some fucking pots.
Which, if I remember right, didn't he even call that out himself as far as like, what am I going to do on a boat? We need like the irrigation system. We need all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, but still you can give us plants, or I don't know what she said, but like it felt like that.
He was saying that like, oh, like not even like my best student would be good enough to, or is good enough to matter on that. She's like, yeah, that's what we're taking you. And he's just like, oh, nuts. Like, you can also just say no, bro. You don't gots to get on the ship.
True.
But then, like, I get that was the whole point of these characters, was to be obsessed with something. And then, like, yeah, they banded together. But, like, when she's all, like, trying to get them to, like, you know, be a part of the ship and stuff, like, they would have just died. Because that one guy's like, oh, I'm just not going to steer shit. I'm just going to draw. You would have just gone off course. Because, you know, it's the ocean. And let's be real, too. It's the Pacific Ocean. You get off a little bit, you're just dead. Because, you know, it's big and empty. Navigating from this point over here is not the same as navigating to the same place from right here. There's difference because it's ocean. And then you had that one lady that's just cutting and breaking shit while the ship is moving. She's just like, oh, this sail's in use. I'm just going to cut the rope to it.
Yeah.
That's how you just murder a crew of people. She was a psychopathic murderer. I get it's a family film that's not, it's just like quirky stuff. It was just driving me insane. She just looked at ropes and went, I'm cutting them. You're a boat builder. You know you can't do that while you're going. You can't just go, hey, this rope is holding our sail in this direction. Let's cut it. Let's find out what happens. You die. That's what happens. You die.
And the sad part about it too is like they kind of like they always do a line of like hoping you'll excuse it, where like they just kind of give you the attitude of like, oh well, she's just being quirky, that's okay. Kind of like, oh well, the old man, he's just grumpy, it's fine. Like they want those little things to make you forget that like they're irritating and not helpful. You know what I mean?
And I hate that and everything else. You know what show loves doing that? New Girl. With Zooey Deschanel. They're like, oh, she's a fully functional adult. She's the responsible one of the group. She's an adult. Ooh, but if you get her to try to say penis, oh no. She has to talk like a child or she can't say the word. Like an adult. Because that's how adults act. You want me to think you can pay your fucking bills, but you can't say penis? I hate it. That is a trope in movie and television shows I hate. And you had a crew of them on this. You had an entire crew of that character trope. Of just, oh, they're this. And we just accept it. We have to love it. No, you don't. That's how you die. That's how your people die. The whole point of your mission is to save your people. Because if you don't, you had a premonition that they will die. And you went, let's go get the woman that cuts every rope she's ever seen. We need her on a boat in the middle of the ocean. I need that like I need a heart attack. It's a bad trope. We don't need to be teaching kids that trope's good. We don't need families across this world going, I need that trope in my life. They don't, and it needs to die. So yeah, I'm going to pick on this movie for doing that. Because they're perpetuating something I fucking hate in every fucking source of medium out there. Hate it. And then, what was the point of Maui losing his tattoos? For what? 3 minutes?
Yeah, like a scene or two, and he had him back.
He lost his tattoos, fell in the water, then saved Moana in the water, and then got his tattoos back.
Which also like, and I get that it's representing that he's like not a demigod anymore, but I'm like, normal humans also have tattoos. So it could just be still tattoos you have that just don't do magical things. Like, it was just funny to me. I don't know.
But like, also like, rip the fuck off of the first movie. That's literally the same as his hook breaking in the first movie. His hook breaks for about 5 minutes, and then he gets a new one. I'll excuse it once. It's fine in the first one. But like, what lesson is he learning from losing his tattoos? You're telling me that he couldn't have lost them, and you can't have him just have them lost at the end of this movie? He could get them back in the third one. It's literally 3 minutes.
They could have made that the plot of the third movie.
Like, yeah, he's on a thing to get the tattoos because he needs them to fight Moana Thanos. What crazy kooky way is he going to lose his powers in the third movie for 2 minutes? It's absurd. It's offensive. Also, those coconut fucks. When they came on this screen, I have never wanted to throw a bucket of large popcorn at a movie screen harder than I did when I saw that fucking ship. I get they didn't fight them like the first movie. I don't give a fuck. It literally happens at the same point in time that it does in the first movie. I have a feeling. Now, I'm not saying I tested this out scientifically, but I'm just saying if you start Moana, you start Moana 2 at the same time, I almost feel like the coconut people show up at the exact fucking minute in both movies. And then the fucking crab guy and the vampire lady happen at the exact same minute in both movies. How many times do you get sucked underwater to have a sing song with the secondary villain in a light up cave? And why are they both just singing to her? No other characters are around for either one of them when the sing song's happening. What is this? And then, just to top it all off, the villain of this movie, I know technically is this one God thing, but in all actuality in this movie, it's a cloud. They fight an angry cloud. Okay. I guess. I mean, okay. What are we coming to? They fought a fucking angry cloud. Oh, man. Heather, what do you got?
Yeah, and I think like similar to what you were talking about with the grandma and how they kind of took the sentiment out of that from the first one. I feel like it's the same with just the whole in this one, the water was just magic to her whenever she wanted it, kind of thing too. Like, oh, we're gonna part the seas. Oh, we're gonna make sure that I have this wave that can bring me back up to the shore, and
that is at least a carryover from the first one.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair, but I feel like it's one of those where similar to like, oh, grandma shows up whenever she wants. Like, it's like, oh, this is just a thing that is an all the time thing now. I don't remember it being an all the time thing in the first one, but it's been a minute since I've seen it. I could be wrong about that.
I think I just do think it's been a minute for you because her and Ocean are on really good terms.
Okay.
Now I do get what you're saying because it's like how many people constantly fall off the boat in this one and Ocean's just saving them left and right.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because they overplay that gag in this movie.
And I think maybe that's more what it is than anything. It's just that like, oh, let me get my little hand, my wave and like save you again. I think maybe it was more that because it was at least 3 or 4 times in this movie. Maybe that's more my complaint with it than anything else. But and also like the I forget the lady's name, the bat lady, whoever she was. Like I mean, would it be, I don't know if it would be correct term to say that she was more like a red herring, but I feel like it was like that because they kind of played it like she was going to be the big bad, or at least how I viewed it was like when she's having conversations with Maui and just the way that she's talking, it just feels like she's the one that's going to be more of a villain in this one. And then it turns out that she's actually just helpful to Moana. And then like you said, there was no like FaceTime with them and the big bad, like there's no actual battle. There's no encounter really with the big bad. It's just like making sure that Maui doesn't die from, the crazy storm more than anything else is kind of what it felt like at the end. And that was just very anticlimactic. And it just felt like almost, like it's a setup thing for something that's going to happen in a later movie. But why did we need to wait on it? Or why did we need this movie in the middle? Like, I don't know. That's just kind of how the setup of that last act of the movie felt to me. Because you're right. It felt like they wanted this to be like the Thanos of it all. Or they did a similar thing with, Venom 3 with the bad guy at the end, where it's like he's just brooding on his throne, but we don't really get much of him actually in the movie. So I don't know. It was just they really want you to care more about what they're doing with these characters than you actually should, based on how they play this movie out. And I am really glad that you brought up the Maui song in this one because honestly, it was atrocious. It was so bad. Like, and it's funny, like literally exactly what you said is what I thought. I was like, they are trying so hard to be a Lin-Manuel Miranda song right now, and it's just not working. It almost didn't even really have a beat. Like, and I don't know if that was the rock, or I don't know if that was the way they wrote the song. Whatever the problem was, I'm just like, what is this? And what are you doing right now? Like, it just didn't hit the same at all. And like, again, it's beat for beat, them just trying to be like, all right, this is the Maui moment. We know they had it in the first one and people loved it. So we're going to give him one in this. And I just don't think that it held no weight, essentially. There was just nothing behind it, just like most of the things in this movie. I will say that I think the song's called Beyond, the first kind of big number of the film, that like when she goes out onto the boat, and then they reprise it at the end. That song at least had a little bit more like emotion and power behind it than anything else in the movie, but it still did not hit like, what's the name of the song in the first one? How Far I'll Go. Yeah. I mean, that song is incredible. Like you were saying, it's like the Let It Go of Moana. Like, it's just an incredible song, and it is hard to follow it up, but it's like, at least try. Like, I feel like they thought they were trying, but they weren't. Yeah. It felt like they were like, what are similar words to what she said in this song? And let's like just use a thesaurus to think of similar words to make them think it's a different song. Like, that's kind of how it felt. And same thing with just the entire rest of the movie too. I mean, I didn't like when they encountered all of the coconut people, but I will say I didn't mind the coconut warrior guy that kind of went with them on their journey. That guy was kind of cool. Why were most of my characters that I enjoyed the most the ones that didn't talk? Yeah, like the little pig.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah. like,
did you just like all the silent characters?
I did. Yeah.
You like the little pig, like the little chicken, which also most expensive chicken ever. Because that's Alan Tudyk. If you don't know, that is fucking, I believe, Juilliard trained actor Alan Tudyk is the chicken. So you had coconut guy, chicken, and pig. What about Big Pig? Did you like Big Pig?
Yeah, he was all right. Yeah, but like they had 0 lines in the movie, but I was just more entertained, I think, by what they were doing than anybody else in the movie somehow. And like there was something, I don't know if I'd say it was off, but there was something about the dynamic between Maui and Moana in this one that just wasn't also quite the same. Like because you know what I mean?
That is the big difference between this and Moana. Is Maui and Moana aren't around each other as much. That is the only difference. Is that it's like 2/3 of the movie in the first one, and then this it's maybe the final third.
Yeah. You know, and that is what the problem was. It was like, because they aren't together in this as much, and then it does feel like instead of like a sequel type of reunion between them, again, it felt like a mini series Disney type of reunion, where it's almost like, we have these adventures all the time, me and Moana. Hey, Moana, it's you again. Like that type of vibe to it. When it's like, I don't feel like that was the right choice for like a sequel to Moana after like this great relationship building that they did from the first movie. And I don't know. I'm just very, just not even disappointed, but underwhelmed by all the choices that they made for what they did in this movie. I didn't mind the addition of the little sister. Like, it was cute. There were moments where that was really cute with the big sister, little sister thing. But again, like, that was just supposed to be a replacement sentimental thing for Grandma, who was also in the movie. Like you said, Grandma's showing up spiritually at the parties. I don't know. She's just there. But yeah. And so that part with the little sister, those parts were cute. And that was like her new reason and motivation to be able to return home and all of these things. But it just falls flat. Like there's nothing about this movie that moved me, that felt like I relate to this moment or this character or this song or anything like that, because you're like, well, I know I relate to Moana, but only because of her from the first movie. I don't feel like I relate to anything about her from the second movie. So it's just a very weird choice I think they made for this to be what they chose for their sequel.
Jastin, what you got?
All right. So yeah, everything that pretty much the stuff that you guys said about the songs and everything. I mean, just down to the point to where it's not even that, oh, these are like Wish versions of the songs in the other movie, but downright to just where they're even placed in the film are just the same. Like, okay, this is the song where I know I have to venture out, but I'm afraid of leaving home because of reasons, but I'm going to do this because I have to do this. That was the first song in the movie. Then the eventual song with Maui, except all they did was flipped it. And instead of this being the song where Moana motivates Maui and makes him realize who he is, they just flipped it. And it was Maui sings song to motivate Moana and remind her of who she is. It's just, it was the same kind of song in the same place. They just did a slight wrinkle. We'll flip the roles and that'll make it different. That'll make it what it needs to be. But like you guys said, a lot of those songs just lacked any soul. They weren't memorable or anything like that. So all of that stuff just kind of falls flat, or it's just very, very forgettable. The reason why I said I think the crew that they had was the key to this and probably should have been like where the movie put more of its focus. The way that they executed it wasn't that great. But I think with this story, especially a story where the goal is to do something that is going to bring all of these other people together, the right direction seems to be that you need to challenge. If your protagonist is going to be bringing all of these people together, challenging the protagonist to get along with other people that are different from her seems like the right direction for this story to go. So if that's the end game, it makes sense that getting to the game means that we've got to get used to other people being along for this journey. So that was the right direction. What I would have done differently, though, instead of her picking all of these people, I just wish they made different choices. I wish the water chose these people like the water chose her.
Or she should have had somebody else that maybe became an amazing, wayfinder or whatever too, that she was kind of rivals with. And her dad was like, you need to bring them. Like,
yeah, or somebody, even if it was the parents chosen. But I really think where you had potential was the water chose her in the first film. So I kind of like the idea of the water choosing these people. Like, she needs a crew. She doesn't know we're on the island. She's got to do this. She has this vision. Maybe they're in the vision. Or she's like, I need a crew. I don't know who to pick. And the water is choosing these people. So maybe she doesn't know why these people are chosen. She doesn't understand why the water chose these people. She could have even been the headstrong Moana. I want to do this myself. Like, why do I even need a crew? All I got to do is go find Maui and we will handle this shit. Just like we did in the first movie. Water, why are you doing this? Why do I have to have these people? Why are these people important? And if the story was about her coming to an understanding that these people are different from you, but they're all important to what the water is trying to do. They're all important to this aspect of you learning to work with other people is going to be important, because when you finally bring all of these other people together, these other island people together, and you're supposed to be the one that's going to be the ultimate leader, you're supposed to be the chief, it's going to be important for you to be able to work and understand and work with all these people. That's where this could be different from the first one. That's where the character matures and we're not having the same arc. That's where this needed to be aimed. That's what you needed to do.
I like what you're saying, Justin. And I think that that's a really good point, because I think this didn't need to be just a crew of people that were just quirky or misunderstood or just not thinking of things the right way, until she goes, hey guys, let me show you what it means to be on a boat. And everybody's like, oh, okay. And then they're all on the same page. You need some sort of rivalry or adversarial aspect to it. You need her to actually overcome like a prejudice or just, thinking she's right. Because ultimately, when was she just not right at all times when they were on the water?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, because even at the end of the movie, it was just like hey, guys, do what you do best. Okay. Real strong leadership there, buddy. Just do what you already do. Okay. There needs to be something else. I like the idea better of combining some of the aspects of what we talked about, or what you already brought up, Justin. She starts by herself on a bigger boat, because they're like, oh, it's a longer trip. She's on a bigger boat. I think she needs to come across people. in different situations. I know that that's part of the story is that, oh, all the people are separated and all the different tribes they can't find each other and all this other stuff. Have people that are lost at sea. You could still have, like what Heather loves, one of the little coconut people joins the crew. They're lost also.
That aspect of it I did like.
Yeah. So she has to learn to like work with the little coconut people. I think it would make sense to come across an old man that's stuck on an island by himself and he's been farming and he's kind of gone a little crazy because he's kind of been on an island by himself. She has no idea who he is. He has no idea where the fuck he's from. He's just an old man on an island that's by himself. And she rescues him and they have to learn to work together and all this other stuff. Just like little something like that.
And that definitely plays better than like she's going out there. She's like, hey, I'd like you to join me on this. But then as soon as they get out there, she realizes, oh, they're not doing this correct at all. And then, but also trying to be like the, come on, guys, cheer up type of thing. Like that story doesn't play as well as, like you said, the adversary of finding these people while you're out there and not knowing them and being like stubborn towards each other or something.
Mm-hmm. Or you take the choice, like what I'm saying, I think works too, though. You got to take that choice from her. These people need to be a part of the crew, not by choice. And she needs to have the arc of coming to the understanding of why other people are important, why these people are important. So whether she finds them on another island or they're already on the island and the water chose them, parents chose them, et cetera, take that choice from Moana. Let that be the choice she doesn't get to make. Yeah. And then have her have to figure out why these people are important, why the parents chose these people, how or why she was fortunate to find these people on the island, or why the water chose these people, etc. But we got to take that choice from her. And even if you have the same type of characters, an old man who is stuck in his ways, but then comes to appreciate younger people or the younger generation is not a bad arc for an old man character. A character who is a fanboy of Maui and he's just all obsessed with Maui and he just wants to be on this crew or whatever, and all he wants to do is be Maui, but he has to sort of find some sort of individualism and become to appreciate himself more and not idolize so much, is a good arc for a character. The inventor, the person who's smart and analytical and wants to take everything and rebuild it and make it better and try to innovate and make something more efficient, but comes to the understanding that you've got to appreciate the old shit too. You can't always be about innovation. You can't always be about what's new. You got to appreciate the ancestors and the past so that you can better innovate in the present and the future, is a good arc for a character. These are good characters. You didn't execute it the right way. So that's why I think you had some of the pieces right. I even think you had the characters right. They just need to be different. They just need to be developed in a different way to fit this story with Moana. So I think you had something with what you had. You just didn't execute it the right way.
Well, because you do the classic leadership thing of, if it wasn't her that chose the crew, and she's just like, why the fuck did Ocean choose these for me? Ocean, why did you do this? And Ocean's just like,
yeah. And then the whole time you have some of that quirky shit. They're fucking up.
Yeah.
I can't get this old man to do shit. I can't get this chick keeps wanting to break stuff apart and build it. This motherfucker won't stop drawing pictures. What the fuck, Ocean? Why did you stick me with these people?
Yeah. And then
they suck.
And then you have her learn as a leader that just because they don't do what things the way you think they should be done, and not everything is done your way, you have to learn how to get people, to use their skills to still benefit things. And, you're like, oh, well, you're really good at this, so let's use that to do this. And then like whenever they suggest something, you go, I wouldn't do it that way. And they're like, but I really think you should. And you're like, look, I trust you, so we're going to do things your way. Like she kind of does that at the end with the boat maker, but she doesn't do it with anybody else. Like it benefits if, like I said, there's got to be some sort of adversarial reaction to things. It can't just be, I chose you. Huh? Did I choose wrong? Nah, everything worked out.
Yeah. And we don't even really know why she chose these people. Like, that's a problem too. She chose them, but why? Like, what do you know, Moana, that we don't know? And why wasn't that ever explained? And see, if you flip it, Sterling, like we're both saying, and somehow she didn't have that choice, and it's about her learning about why these people are important. That's where not only does it help the narrative, not only does it help your end game where you're going with this, but that's where you can get some new songs. Now we've got new people singing songs about themselves so that we can understand who the fuck they are and why they're important and what they care about. And she's listening to them, you know? And then later you can hit them with a song where everybody is singing and we're in sync and we know each other and yeah, we're a good crew now. But you needed to, that I think that was the new journey that Moana needed to take.
Yeah. She needed a journey of leadership and she didn't have that.
Yes, exactly. She's just already the leader and doing shit right. And let me go now, combine all these people and all this kind of stuff. You need that hurdle to become a better leader because she shouldn't, because that's the new arc for her. We saw her become empowered and understand why she's important and know who she is and stuff like that. But now it's time to empower others. Now it's time to understand why other people are important. Now it's time to understand why you are going to be the chief and combine all these other societies and all these other people. You still gotta become a leader. You can't just have it all. You know, there's got to be something you lack, you know?
And that would be a really great story because if you think about it, she's older, and I'm not saying that she can't have learned lessons and stuff like that, but they even showed in this movie at the beginning of it, she's been off on her own a lot. And her parents need her to also understand what it's like to be with people, what it's like to lead people. You can't do it on your own. We are a tribe. We are a group. We are a people. We are a culture. We are not you doing whatever the fuck you want, and we're here.
Yeah.
But she already knows that. But like, you know, she knows that at the beginning of this movie. I think you just don't have her know that because she's off on her own all the time. She's like, what the fuck else do I need when I'm out on the ocean other than me, pig, chicken, and ocean, and Maui every once in a while? That's all I need. Have this be her learning. That's not all you need. Like, yes, you saved your people, but you also need to be a part of your people. Saving your people isn't the same as being a part of them, because as you've continued to grow, you've been gone. And it's really funny if you think about this as a TV series. Essentially, what this movie did is it cut out the 3 or 4 episodes in the middle of the season that were explaining the backstory of the 3 characters on her crew.
Of the 3 characters.
And their growth.
That's what we needed.
They cut that out. That's what they took out of the TV series, is that episode where, you know, it's like episode 4 where they're like, hey, drawing guy, why are you drawing guy? And it tells his backstory. Hey, farmer guy, why are you farmer guy?
Backstory. And also really quick too, like that whole thing of her learning to be a leader and learning what it is to be with other people and work with other people would play into that idea of like the whole thing of, you know, our people are dying, you know, and it's like, and if you don't learn how to work with other people and lead these other people, they're going to die out, you know. That would still play into that like overall story that they were trying to do in this movie.
Yeah, because you just
Mhm.
have it be the metaphor of saving your people by pulling up that island and reconnecting everybody is also the metaphor of learning to be with your people and learning to lead your people. Like, it's all the same metaphor. Just have it be that in the fucking movie.
Yeah, and that could be something that when she gets to that crossroads moment where everything's barreling down and she's not sure she can do this because why couldn't she just do this alone? How come it's not just her and Maui? Blah, blah, blah. That could be the thing. Like, if you can't do this, how are you going to combine? How are you going to bring all these other people together? How are you going to bring all these other islanders together? If you can't pass this test, how are you going to face the bigger ones that await you as a leader?
Especially because there's just a lot of historical stuff you could do with it. Because, like, I don't know if you guys know this or anybody else, it's when you get to the story of Moana, and they're like, oh, our people stopped traveling the sea and she wants to do it again. Her dad's like, no. And then she goes and does it, right? That actually has a historical connection because a lot of the Pacific tribes and the Polynesian Samoan culture tribes and all this other stuff, they were oceanfarers. And then for about 1,000 years, they just stopped. And no one really knows why. And then they started again. And that's what Moana was kind of showing, like a historical fiction version of that. And this is kind of tying into that because, it's like, oh, the other tribe, we don't talk to anybody anymore. So there's like some historical relevance in that. But like, if you're going into something uniquely historical in the first movie, you're telling me there's not something else from history you can't pull into this with some of that stuff? I mean, there's this rich historic plethora of fucking shit you can tell. And your story is, let's do the first one. Just with some people, some new people. But like,
and you didn't have to, bro, because you're thinking about a shortcut. But you should have been thinking about how you can mature this character. But you're trying to do it the shortcut way. Oh, we'll just have some new people. And look, guys, it's new because of these new people. But if you had taken just some time, we haven't even been talking about it an hour. And already we have thought of a map to where you could have used those same characters, developed them, and made them more integral to this story. And all it took was just a little more thought and not, let's just cash grab it,
I mean, and to touch back real quick to something Heather said earlier with the vampire lady. I know in this movie she's not technically a villain, and I get that. But it's not really that Crab Guy in the first movie is really a villain either, because they're just there for the scene. So they're a villain, quote unquote, for the scene, because she did kidnap Maui for a little while. That's it. It's in the same respect to the Crab Guy. It's the same thing. And that's why I call her a villain in this movie, because she's as much of a villain as the guy is in the first movie. She kidnaps one of the people for a little bit. I know Crab Guy was bad or whatever, but like, all he did was kidnap somebody for a little bit. That's it. So she did the same amount of villainous as the villain guy from the first one, So that's why I've referred to her as that. Is because as far as the plot goes, she was a villain for a second.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I agree because I think she, like, they painted her as she was supposed to be a villain, but like, I guess the way that they initially set it up, for some reason, made me feel like they were trying to say this is the big villain. But yeah, no, yes. I get what you're saying though.
Oh, I get what you're saying, because they had her shrouded in darkness and there was bats and she kidnapped
like,
Maui.
I can't wait for Moana to come and get here to try and save you. Like, just kind of menacing sounding and all this stuff. Like, it just felt like that's what they were trying to do with that.
And honestly, I kind of wish that she was. I wish that you could have just went on ahead and made her the main villain of this story. And maybe she gets beat up, escapes. They touch the island. The islands are combined. She's out. And maybe for some reason, that was sort of part of Moana Thanos' plan. What if he somehow needed them all to combine so that he could do something to them or something like that? That was another thing they never explained. He wanted more power by splitting everybody apart. Well, why? Why the fuck did he need everybody split apart? And so now that everybody's together, she combined all of these people now. So is he weaker now? Is he? Because he sure as hell didn't seem to care in the post-credit scene. So what was the point of splitting them apart for him to be more powerful? Just make that part of the plan that we don't know. Maybe this was all a part of his plan. This is just, so this movie could have been the Bat person captures Maui, all this stuff. She's trying to get all of Moana. She's trying to convince Moana, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work. We get Maui back. She splits. But now she's guarding this thing with this island. And maybe the Thunderbolts and all that. You can still have all that. Those are tag partners. They're helping her. They defeat her. She escapes. That's where we get the after credit scene with Thanos or whatever, that this is all part of a plan. And she's like, damn. And maybe like he talks down to her or something and you kind of realize, oh man, you know, she's being forced. And then we can expound on her later. That's the third movie. Just make her the problem in this one.
You could have at least
You see
made
what I'm
her
saying?
like the Starscream to Thanos' Megatron.
There you go.
You could
Something
have
like
her
that.
do what she did, but she did it to double cross him because she wants his power.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do something like that. Because in this movie, she's the old man from Home Alone. Where he's
Yeah,
all
basically.
menacing throughout that, and then all of a sudden he's kind of a nice guy.
Yeah.
That's what she was. Menacing as fuck. She's in the shadows, got her bat people, kidnapping Maui, shooting sea gunk at him. I don't know what the fuck that is. For a whole movie just shooting sea gunk at him. And then she's like, I'll help you. I ain't that bad, really. I'm just misunderstood.
Yeah. And I mean, if this was going to be a bridge movie to the third one anyway, just make all of that, make all of those revelations with her in the next one. Just let her be the one that we beat.
Especially when she was trying to motivate Moana. Why don't you have her do some diabolical shit for Moana to overcome to where you think she's the bad guy the whole time? And then she's like, I was just trying to make you strong enough to face what you've got to face.
Yeah.
It was tough, I know, but you passed and now you're ready.
There you go.
Because you've got a much harder journey ahead of you. You've got to fight Ocean Thanos.
Exactly. There you go. And see, if that had been this movie, I just think that would have came together so well. But like you said, it really needed to be a series so we could really fully develop all these characters. But if that was your movie, her embarking on this journey, we got to do this. But I don't have Maui yet because he's with Batgirl and I've got this crew. And these motherfuckers were chosen. These weren't my choices, but I got to work with them. And I got to find out about them. We got to find out why we're all important. I got to become a better leader. Now I can lead this crew. Now we save Maui. Then we do all of that. All the time you're developing all these characters doing all of that stuff. We beat the big bad bat, you know, but we don't know that really it's not really her. It's this other bigger plan by the Thanos person. But now our character has grown. Our character is now a better leader. Now we have opened up the paths to all these other islanders and all these other societies to come into play. But now we have somebody who is ready to be a leader. She has gone on this journey Moana has gone on this journey to mature as a leader and the eventual chief that she is supposed to become. So see, we're on that path now. We're getting there. We're getting there. And then the third movie could be whatever the next evolution of that challenge is to her becoming, maybe in the third movie, now we are leading some people, a big group, or maybe now we're meeting islanders and there are differences and my island's not getting along with this island and we got to figure that shit out. And all the while, Thanos is coming. And when Thanos comes, we're going to need all these islanders to beat him, which is that's probably where this is going. Like, with all due respect, that's probably where we're going.
Yeah. The next movie is just going to be one person from each of the islands, and they're going to be the Pacific Avengers.
Yep.
Going up against Ocean Thanos.
And whoever they are, just like how she got demigod powers, you're probably going to need an Avengers demigod group. You know,
well, Maui's Thor. She's going to be the Iron Man, technically. You're going to have somebody else as a Cap. You're going to have somebody that can, an archer of some sort or something. And you're going to have a Black Widow. You know what I mean? You just get those type of characters. Like,
yeah, maybe a little sis will be a little bit older so she can be in on some of the action a little bit later. Whatever, however you decide to do it. But that was where this story needed to go. It would have felt a lot different from the first one. You would have given Moana some completely different character dynamics, but we would have got some new songs that don't feel anything like the songs before it, but they would have served a better purpose in this movie because they wouldn't have just felt like Wish versions from part one. And I think you would have had a pretty good story here. And you still could have done some of the fun stuff. You still could have done some of the loony stuff. But you would have had a nice little crew here, man. All these people that you developed right and we cared about. We got a coconut person. Man, Moana got a little squad. We got Maui, man. We got a little squad thing going on here. Pretty cool coming out of this second movie. And we got a big Thanos person that we got to deal with on the next one. All right. Moana 3, here I come. But you had all those pieces. Why didn't you just do it? Why'd you take the cheap way out, man?
Whoever sat there and went, you know what? We got to pivot this groundbreaking television show into the sequel. I mean this in the nicest way possible. Maybe they should lose their job. Because they were wrong.
Yeah.
They were dead wrong.
Yeah. And look,
because
less than an hour's time, we fixed it. Like, and it didn't even take that much thought.
I don't care how much money this movie makes. It will not be as much as the first one. And it is because no one wants to watch this twice.
Yeah.
That's simple. And so if you had made this a TV series and you kept your plan for what is now Moana 3, and that was actually Moana 2, and you had Lin-Manuel Miranda coming in, he's writing your songs, and you had these people writing the songs for this little Disney Plus series, you would have just been raking in so much fucking money, you would not have known what to do with yourself. Disney would have just been like, we don't know how to have this much money. It just keeps coming in. And like I said, as much as they're a big mega corporation, their movies ain't been doing it. Why are they going, man, maybe we could learn something from Sony? And like I said, I get it. This movie's going to be financially successful. I'm sure it already is. But I think you easily will have left $500 million on the table that this movie could have made, that it just won't. Because like I said, no one's watching this twice. 4-year-olds aren't even wanting to watch this again. You know how hard it is for a 4-year-old not to watch something again? I feel like that's all they ever do is watch shit they've already watched. And they won't want to see this. Because like I said, part of it's because they won't remember a fucking song. That's part of it. Do you remember any song from Little Mermaid 2?
No.
Yeah, but you remember them from Little Mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
And you just hate to see them start to revert back to old habits. I mean, I know old habits die hard, but this is one of those just Hollywood habits that you just wish would die, where it's like, oh man, we got an IP. We made a little money the first time. Let's just throw some shit out here and make some money real quick. And you just hate when that happens, when other movies like Alien Romulus, like Inside Out 2, which is in the same department. I mean, what the hell? This is the same. This is the same. I mean, these people are across the hallway from you. Like, I mean, you know that you don't have to stoop to this to make money. You can make something more ambitious than this and make good money too.
I feel so bad because we've gone so far into this episode. And I forgot to mention this. I feel so bad for all those bad things I said about Inside Out too. I'm also sick and tired of seeing fucking movies that make me feel bad for criticizing and having valid criticisms of other movies, because it just fills me with such a feeling of, well, I guess it could have actually been this. I'm tired of it. Yeah. I feel like that's all 2024's been for me, is watching movies and that make me go, man, I misjudged this other movie. Because it could have been this. Like, I am so scared for next week when we do Craven. Am I going to apologize to Venom 3? Am I going to apologize to Madam Web? I mean, I'm not going to apologize to Morbius because fuck Jared Leto. But am I going to apologize to these other franchises? Am I going to apologize to, I don't know, Ant-Man? Am I going to sit there and go, man, DC's The Flash, I'm sorry. You could have been Craven. I'm sick and fucking tired of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a difference between try and not try, effort and not giving effort. Like, Alien Romulus didn't have to be as good as the first Alien, but damn, try to develop some compelling characters. Try to give us some similar feelings to the first one. Try to come up with a plot that makes at least logical sense for the narrative that we're in. And try to do some different things. Try to think outside the box a little bit and do some different things we haven't seen before. Just try.
When we went into Alien Romulus, we talked about how there were 6 legitimate Alien films before it. And all it had to do was be the third best.
Yeah.
And it'd be a success. All this movie had to do was be the second best Moana movie. And I don't feel like I can say that, which is weird, because there's only 2. And I don't think I can say this is the second best Moana movie, because I still think as of right this moment, the live action Moana might be better even if it's just a scene for scene remake of the animated, just because the songs are better.
Yeah.
Which will
Because it won't be
automatically,
this.
by default, make it better than this.
Yeah.
Even if it's just the same.
Yeah.
Just the fact
That's
that
where
I've
we've
seen
arrived.
pictures of behind the scenes of live action Moana, I go, this isn't the second best. I think legitimately speaking, it goes Moana, the Moana soundtrack with just pictures in your mind. Live action Moana, then this one. Only 2 of those are real movies as of right now. But I still think if you listen to the soundtrack and just think about the movie in your head, it's a better movie than this.
Yeah. And just to go with exactly what you're saying, I wasn't even asking you to be as good as the first Moana. I wasn't coming in expecting that. I wasn't asking for that. But damn, bruh, at least show me that you tried.
And I think that that's what was so important about Frozen 2. It's not as good as the first. Like we said, songs aren't as good, all this other stuff, but you had one amazing song and just a good movie.
Yeah.
Good enough. Ooh.
They tried. There was effort. They tried to expound on what we know about the character, other characters' relationships. And they tried. All I'm asking for you to do is try. Inside Out wasn't as good as the first Inside Out, but there's evidence that they tried. There's evidence that they at least made an effort to have a good story.
It's like, if you really look at Frozen 2, the first one is learning to like accept yourself. But then like the second one's learning to believe in yourself, which are 2 different things.
Yep.
It's actually a natural progression. Like, accept who you are and then like grow who you are. Believe in who you are, like believe in yourself and grow that person. Like, that's a natural progression. And then this.
Yeah. And how did you miss the ball here when you got all the pieces surrounding it? This is about people. This is about family. This is about tradition and ancestors and the people that came before you, and about combining other people and coming together. And I mean, if you've got this island of people and they are isolated from everything and the whole thing is, oh, we don't want to go out there. It just seems like so common sense to understand what the progression of these characters need to be. What the progression of this person needs to be. Jastin, it's just, how is that not just written on the wall for this?
You brought up a good point, family. Why was it just one member of her family on that boat? Even if it's like her cousin. Just to help tie that part together.
Yeah.
Like, have her cousin be on the boat. And you can have it be the younger boy annoying cousin. Something. Have a family member. Like, why couldn't the boat maker have been her cousin? Or why can't the old grumpy farmer be her uncle?
Yeah.
Just to kind of tie that a little together to add to this family dynamic that is so important, but she's never around her family. Oh, family's so important. I'm never here.
Yeah. I just don't understand, because it seems so easy in my head. And I'm like, why didn't you just do this? You could have just made a different choice instead of the same choices. It just feels super lazy. I know everybody that worked on this had brains, and I know there were a bunch of them, and they had thoughts and concepts. I mean, how is it that hard to see how to mature this character. How is that not the next step? You already wrote this shit down. You said she was going to be the chief. You said she was going to be the leader of the people of the future. So create a leader. How is it that hard? But anyway, not to beat a dead horse. I think we've all made the point on it. The only other thing I want to say is just y'all talked a little bit about the ending and everything. And I agree with the stuff about the grandmother, just to speak about that. Well, my thing is that, okay, so they get hit with these bolts from Moana Thanos, and you lose your demigod powers. You know, Maui lost his demigod powers. Tattoos went away. She got hit and I guess died or was unconscious, or I think she died though. I'm pretty sure she died. So if grandma and these people can just bring you back and restore all your powers and just do it all for you, it feels like if they can do all of that, then how do you, and they're ghosts, they can't be killed, they can't be interfered with, they can't be blocked in any sort of way or countered. What's to stop them from just saving them all again in the next movie? Or the movie after that, or the movie after that, or the movie after that? I don't like the ghost just being able to fix everything.
Well,
it's almost the equivalent of Superman just flying around the world and reversing time. It's just any time you can do that, then what the fuck is the point?
But what I love is also the implications of it. When the guy that was the last great wayfarer or whatever, he went out and he died. So does that mean his ancestors didn't give a fuck about him?
They just let him die.
They just let him die.
Yeah, because he went out there first. Boat was wrecked and everything. He just died. How come nobody gave a fuck? Where was his granny?
Nowhere.
Where was great granny to give a fuck about him?
Do you know how you do that scene better? Is don't have the grandmother show up earlier in the movie and piss me off. But if you want to have something like that in this movie, when the little bolt is coming down to her, have the little spirit stingray block it. I'm not saying I would have loved that, but I would have hated it way less.
That's better than a full-on revival with demigod powers.
And on top of that, an air dome? Because they also air domed the whole thing too. Because she was on top of that little underwater island. And they went, oh no, she can't breathe. Here's a dome of air.
Yeah. Like, it's cool to have them. It's cool to have the ancestors. And I get it. They're tying, all of this is supposed to be, it's all tied together. They're all part of this divine plan. And they're all part of Moana and her present and her future. I get all of that. But when you have them do things like this, and then in the third movie, this doesn't happen, like everybody that gets killed when Moana Thanos, or gets murked when Moana Thanos comes, if the ghost people don't just bring everybody back, then now I have to be sitting there going, they could just bring everybody back.
Well, now it really leaves to just a couple of possibilities. Either no one's going to be in danger in the third movie because they don't want to have them come back. So nothing happens. Or they just don't come back and it's weird. Or I guess, they come back and save everybody. Like, I really do think this is setting up, though, for the father to die in the third one. He's going to make a noble sacrifice. Going to be real weird when his mom doesn't come back and save him.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be real awkward. They're going to have a real weird conversation in the afterlife.
Yeah. And if it's something where the water chose her so she could do this or something like that. But you haven't explained those things. And if you make the characters make a dumb choice like, no, grandma, don't help me this time. I want to do this myself. Well, that's dumb. Like, you can't do that. I feel like it's too late to do that. Or if the grandmother goes, well, I can't interfere in this for reasons, that's going to feel dumb. Like, anything you do after this is dumb. Like, because why were we able to do it here? You know?
I think it'd be real funny if that first guy was like, man, I ain't bringing her back. You guys didn't bring me back. Man, fuck her, like y'all said to me.
Just petty about it.
Yeah. Just, why couldn't she just have gotten up out of Will? Just, you know, she hears their voices. They're yelling at her. They're like, Moana, this can't be it for you. You got to get up. You got to tough through this. Come on, Moana. You got to do this. You got to do this. And what if she just like willed herself, you know?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, you got the spiritual guardian protector for a little bit, you know, but you can have her be underwater a little too long. Like, don't get her, but so she kind of passes out. When she passes out underwater, I don't think you bring the grandmother back, even though, like I said, you can have the little manta ray blockhead. I think it needs to be her sister. Like her sister standing in the ocean, being like, Moana, when are you coming back home? And she hears that through the water. And that's when she kind of brings herself back. And then she finds herself like on the boat already. You know, like Maui had like grabbed her out of the water. But like she wills herself back from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't let the ghost people save and revive and get powers back and stuff. They're too OP. They're too OP. That's God mode. That's a cheat code.
Can't do that. It's just too convenient. Like it really is the anti of what you typically do in a movie. It's like why in almost every X-Men movie, Professor X gets, you know, incapacitated for a minute. Is because if Professor X is around, it's too unfair. So
exactly.
You got to incapacitate him. It's the exact opposite. They just introduce something that's just too strong. That like now you got to have something like, oh no, where you're going, the ancestor spirits can't follow you. So be careful. Like they're going to have to say that in the next movie.
You're right. It's going to, that's what they're going to do.
You got to go to the realm of the gods.
Like that.
Like she's going to be traveling somewhere. And right before she gets there, kind of like in this movie when Maui's like, oh no, now we're in the cursed water. So ocean can't help you, even though we're surrounded by ocean. I don't know how that works. But ocean can't help you in the ocean. They're going to do something in this too, where they're going to be going there and grandmother's spirit's going to show up and she's going to be like, be careful, Moana. We can't help you in the land of the gods. And then she's going to go there to fight, you know, Ocean Thanos.
Yeah. You are so right. That's how they're going to write themselves out of that. It's going to be some sort of alternate universe, negaverse, upside down shit, and she can't use them. Yep. You're right.
And also, the other dumb thing about it too is the end of the third movie is also probably just going to be Moana and Maui. Like the crew, there's going to be other people that are going to help her get there, but the final bit of it's just going to be them.
Yeah.
Oh no. This franchise.
Yeah, I know.
Such a downhill. Such a downhill. Anyway, you guys got any more thoughts about Moana 2?
I'm good.
On that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We're Cinema Slayers podcast on Facebook. We're Cinema_Slayers on Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd. We are cinemaslayerspod.bksy.social on Blue Sky. We are at Cinema Slayers Pod on the TikTok and the YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating review. We'd really appreciate it. Really help us out. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends, and most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love.
Alan Tudyk.
I was going to say Moana 1.
Oh, yeah. They also love Moana the first.
Moana Senior. We here at the Simba Slayers podcast are pro slut, pro Sydney, and pro naked. You, yes, you Cinephans, you are Knuff. Moana 2 is not. But you are Knuff. Justice for Chris, justice for Todd, justice for all those wonderful, wonderful stunt people, and also justice for all those animators. Really awkward saying that at the end of this. But just because this movie wasn't good does not mean that animators deserve any less love. It's still just a little awkward. Because you deserve justice, you deserve love, but do better. You know, just do a little better. And, as always in this podcast, the YouTube videos and the TikToks, just remember, according to Jastin, Moon Knight is the best picture winner. That's the wrong one. Done that. I did that last episode too. I accidentally played the one with the words. This is the one with no words. So that's why. It's the wrong one. It might not sound like you. Might be like, Sterling. That was a reel.
Cinema Slayers.
The mana sting would have come in handy for this, because then we could have stung him and said, hey, don't do this shit. You know what I mean?
You just got stung by the mantis.
You watch episode 3 yet?
That's going to be a no.
I'm not spending no 40 fucking
it's a
bucks
no?
for that fucking show.
Not even a maybe. Not even a, if I get time, if I can fit
Heather
it in my
still
schedule.
hasn't watched the pilot of The Cape yet.
That's true.
Really?
I keep
Oh,
forgetting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is pending. That is on the list. Mm-hmm.
You gotta watch that Cape.
To-do list.
I'll report back once I do.
Okay.
All right, let's be fair. Don't watch it before next week, because it's a little unfair to make you watch The Cape and Craven
And Craven.
all before the
Just a-
same episode.
Just
That's
a
a tough
terrible
ask.
sandwich. Think of the worst sandwich, whatever that is.
Dude, do you know how rough that would be? It's Moana 2, Craven, and an episode of The Cape?
It's rough.
Heather would just quit the damn podcast.
I've
Yeah.
seen all the good films at this point, apparently. So just done.
She's just like, I'm never watching anything again. Just never.
Just never, ever. And I would understand.
Cape will be my breaking point. Yep.
Oh, that's just a weird, that'd be an awful week and a half. Just like, and I'm not saying this movie's on par with that shit, but it's still not a good start. You don't feel good about it. Like, I'm not saying it's Craven bad, but it's, you just don't feel good starting here.
It's just not a good sandwich. It's your least favorite meat, and the bread's not good either.
Mm.
Well,
It's old. It's
It's-
edible, but it's too old to where it starts tasting a little different. Like, you're not going to die eating it, but it's old.
well, it's like
You wouldn't know about that, Jastin. That
it's
the bad bread.
it's like the top slice is just white bread.
Rolls, no. All my rolls are fresh.
It's
But
the top slice of bread is just white bread. That's Moana too. It's just a slice of white bread. And then you just have the worst filling ever, followed by like vegan bread. Like vegan flour-free bread. So it's not even technically bread, but somehow they call it bread. So it's like vegan flour-free bread as the bottom, and that'd be the Cape.
Okay.
ugh.
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 You have to down it, no condiments.
Oh no, she couldn't even put her mayonnaise on it. Just her plain ass mayonnaise.
Oh no, deal off.
I don't even know if Heather could eat a sandwich without mayonnaise.
I can and I have.
I refuse to believe that. You would need the most basic of condiments.
I mean, it is the condiment that I use on sandwiches, but I have gone without it before.
But you don't prefer it. Like if you're going to have a sandwich, it's going to have mayo on it.
Yeah. To be clear, only for sandwiches that mayo should be on, which I know Sterling will say is none, probably. But, it's not like I'm going to do like, mayo with like peanut butter or something. I'm not going to do that.
I mean, I'm just saying. The only condiment that goes on a non-peanut butter sandwich is mustard. Now, if you want to add a slight smidgen of mayonnaise to that mustard, that's fine. But mustard's still the base, as you know, flavor.
Duly noted.
I mean, I just don't get the point in adding bland to a sandwich. It's like mayonnaise
butter
just
and mayonnaise sounds disgusting.
Peanut butter and mayonnaise sounds like something Tennessee Titans quarterback Will Levis would eat.
Yeah, that just sounds like a terrible idea. Just
sure does.
Terrible idea.
It sure does.
And I bet it's in next week's Holman's commercial featuring Will Levis. That's all very founded, people. He is sponsored by Hellman's mayonnaise because he did a viral video in college where he put mayonnaise in his coffee. And everybody's like, oh, he likes mayo. So like he's now sponsored by Holman's. He does mayonnaise commercials. He even did one where they're like a cologne that's like mayo by Will Levis. So I'm not pulling shit out of my ass when I say he would probably eat a peanut butter sandwich with mayonnaise.
I see.
And that's why the Titans need to do whatever they can to draft University of Miami's Cam Ward. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, you guys got anything else?
Nope.
All right, guys.